From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Senator Martha McSally speaking out about the surge of migrants released here in Arizona, why she says we've reached crisis levels and need all hands on deck.
Plus, with President Trump's solution to the surge being to just shut the border down, we ask how that move could affect you.
And we take you inside a women's prison where inmates are learning to express themselves through art, dance, and singing.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Marcella Bayeto.
And I'm Anthony Totri. Thanks for joining us. With the special counsel's investigation now over and the 2020 presidential election in full swing, President Donald Trump is shifting his focus back to one of his favorite topics, immigration.
Over the past several days, the president has cut off hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to Central American nations where migrants are coming from and threatened to seal off the entire southern border if something doesn't change soon. The threats coming after Trump's decision to declare a national emergency to expand the border wall without approval from Congress.
We've got the very best team coverage headed your way from our bureau in Washington, D.C. to our crew on the ground in Texas.
But first, let's send it over to Walter Penate here in the Cronkite News Broadcast Center. He went to Senator Martha McSally's roundtable earlier this morning. Walter, what did she have to say about this border battle?
Yes, in addition to Senator McSally, the meeting also included state and federal officials and aid group representatives. While most of their conversation took place away from the cameras, McSally says her intention behind this kind of meeting is to look for ways to improve coordination between agencies when immigrants are released from federal custody here in Arizona.
This is not about blaming, or this is not about trying to point fingers at anybody, but we just got to come together and figure out how we can do a better job coordinating and communicating given the circumstances that I just gave.
Senator Martha McSally taking the lead this morning during a roundtable discussion in Phoenix talking about immigration. The Republican leader making it clear she feels the number of migrant families detained at the border has reached crisis levels and asked all hands to be on deck to manage it.
It's my view that we got to keep the legitimate trade and travel and cross-border commerce happening at the ports of entry, while we also need to secure our border and address this crisis.
Joining McSally today were Phoenix ICE Office Director Enrique Lucero and Tim Romer with Governor Doug Ducey's office. Also in attendance were Southern Arizona federal law enforcement agencies and migrant humanitarian aid groups. Part of the conversation centered around President Trump's recent comments saying he is considering closing the southern border.
I don't want to speak for the president, but those of us in Arizona who have seen the challenges at the border and seen the challenges related to the numbers and how they're going up because cartels are taking advantage of these loopholes we have. This is an emergency, and it has been a crisis, which is why we've been trying to fund border security, why we've been trying to close these loopholes, why we know we need more resources to CBP so that they can actually do their primary job.
According to McSally, 2,000 migrants are being detained at the southern border every day. Just in the last 3 months in Arizona, 18,500 have been released due to overflow challenges.
The conversation will to be continued. I think it's just important in our role as a convener to bring people together to see if we can find some better understanding of what's in the art of the possible to address issues like this.
McSally headed to D.C. after today's meeting, saying she will continue to push for additional border security measures. She also highlighted that as of this fiscal year, 268,000 migrants, primarily families, have been apprehended nationwide. In the broadcast center, Walter Penate, Cronkite News.
Right now, the ACLU is demanding an investigation into, quote, abusive and inhumane conditions at an El Paso Border Patrol detention center. The group says border agents deprived hundreds of families of sleep, forced children to sleep on trash-strewn gravel, and forced families to stand for prolonged periods of time. So we sent a crew there to see what's actually going on for ourselves. Austin Westfall joins us now from Texas with the details. Austin?
The migrants were cleared from the overpass as of late last night. CBP moved them to a nearby area following public outcry. Now here in El Paso, ICE is still dropping migrants off at nearby bus stations and at churches just like this one. I've been here at Caminos de Vida all day. The church houses and feeds the migrants. We joined the church's associate pastor as he drove 14 migrants to the airport and bus station earlier today.
We believe in the love of Christ. We believe that God loves them. They're his children. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. And even if they don't believe the same we do, at the same time, they're also human beings. And we can't just throw humans and treat them this way and throw them in the street. That's just not the proper thing to do.
The overpass was cleared as of late last night. CBP moved those migrants to a nearby area following public outcry. Now here in El Paso, ICE is still dropping off migrants at bus stations. Cabrera says the migrants have travel tickets courtesy of sponsors in other cities. He says about 90 migrants were dropped off here at this church late last week, and more are expected this week. In El Paso, Austin Westfall, Cronkite News.
President Donald Trump recently threatened to shut down some ports of entry on the southern border this week if Mexico didn't stop all illegal immigration into the U.S. He says we have, quote, run out of space, unquote. Cronkite News reporter Micah Bledsoe is live from Washington, D.C. with more. Micah?
President Donald Trump's solution to the latest surge at the border? Shut it down. Critics say that would keep workers and tourists from coming to the U.S., disrupt billions of dollars in trade with Mexico, and do little to stem the flow of migrants. Supporters acknowledge the drawbacks, but say it may be the only way to send a message to Mexico. President Trump blamed Congress and the Mexican government for not doing enough to stop the rise in migrants showing up at the southern border. So he took matters into his own hands.
Mexico's tough. They can stop them. And if they don't stop them, we're closing the border. They'll close it, and we'll keep it closed for a long time. I'm not playing games.
That was Trump Saturday following tweets Friday threatening to shut the border. But while the president insists he is not playing games, skeptics wonder if he's willing to cut off all trade and travel with the third largest trading partner of the U.S.
Arizona is heavily dependent on U.S.-Mexico trade. You're talking about $500 billion in trade entering through these land ports of entry, primarily in Texas, but Arizona is also significantly affected.
Fair Media Director Ira Melman says there's every reason to believe Trump will close the border unless Congress or the Mexican government give the president more to work with.
If they're not going to give the president other options for dealing with this, then they have only themselves to blame.
Melman agrees that closing the border isn't a good option, but it's the only one left for the U.S. to regain control over the border.
It is certainly in the interest of the American people to have a border that is, under some kind of reasonable control, which it is not now.
But the Cato Institute's David Beer says closing the border wouldn't be in the best interest of nearly 5 million American jobs that are dependent on trade from Mexico.
Shutting down legal access to the United States is a measure that's not related to the problem at hand at all.
The proposal is also drawing strong opposition from business. The Arizona Chamber of Commerce said over the weekend that closing the border would be an economic catastrophe. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce said today that it shares administration concerns over the surge of migrants, but that closing the border would be the wrong solution. In Washington, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
For continuing coverage of the border battle, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Sadly, 2 Marine pilots were killed near Yuma when their helicopter crashed during a routine training mission on Saturday night. The pilots were taking part in a weapons and tactics instructor course when the chopper went down. The Marines offered their condolences on Twitter, along with Arizona Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald, who tweeted, "The tragic loss of 2 Marine pilots in Yuma is heartbreaking, praying for peace and comfort for the families and friends of these brave soldiers." The pilots' names have not yet been released, and the cause of the crash is still under investigation.
New tonight, inmates in Maricopa County custody have the chance to participate in rehabilitation programs to help them prepare for re-entering daily life.
Cronkite News reporter Bryce Newberry joins us live in studio with a look at how one program that's helping women heal and stay out of the system for good.
Yeah, I went to the Estrella jail this weekend where women shared their personal stories with the public, singing and dancing, starting to express themselves in ways they didn't know before. Singing for new beginnings.
It's time for new beginnings. already feeling down being here incarcerated. I was going through so much, being away from my kids, how I ended up here, why I ended up here.
Why Arsenia Ruiz ended up at the Estrella jail doesn't matter today. Instead, it's the tools she's picking up behind bars to help her channel her feelings in a positive way.
I found it as a coping skill. I didn't want to be on meds to fight my anxiety, my depression.
She found a sisterhood through Journey Home, a program supported by ASU Gamage to help incarcerated women discover their identities through performance and visual arts.
You can recognize things inside yourself and not be able to figure out how to make that different. Through art and culture, you can.
Only 11 out of 1,100 women here at the Estrella jail get to actually perform before an audience. The sisters come from all different backgrounds, and one by one, they share their stories.
Reflecting on my life, wondering where and how it went all wrong.
I took 3 of them out, and I crushed them down, and I snorted those pills. And that was the beginning of my end.
3 days a week for 6 weeks, performing arts professionals and a therapist meet with the women to work through emotional struggles.
3 days into my incarceration.
In the 18 years of the program, jail staff has noticed a difference in the women who participate.
They saw the female inmates become more open about their feelings and express themselves through the creative arts.
For Ruiz, who faces at least another year in prison,
I felt I was worthless.
Her journey home has already begun.
Journey home brought me from hiding my feelings to painting it out, to getting along with other people, to understanding how people other felt and letting go of my feelings.
At the same time, creating a family in a place least expected. Journey Home has helped hundreds of women through the years. And I talked to one woman who graduated from the program who says she still uses some of the skills she learned in jail in her current life, which includes a job and a happy home. Live in the studio, Bryce Newberry, Cronkite News.
Now to a warning for all of us. Starting today, Tempe police are no longer playing Mr. Nice Guy when it comes to texting and driving.
Instead, they're issuing tickets. They'll begin citing drivers caught with a phone in their hand while behind the wheel. The City Council approved the new tougher texting and driving law in February, and drivers had a month-long grace period where cops only issued warnings.
But now fines for the first offense will be $100. A second violation will jump up to $250, and any more violations within a 24-month period will cost you $500.
Coming up on Cronkite News, measles outbreak, the highly contagious disease reaching record levels in nearly 2 decades.
And what a class act. We'll introduce you to a Valley teacher who came out of retirement to help her old school during the teacher shortage.
Stay in the know, on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say the number of measles cases in 2019 is already the second highest reported in the U.S. since the disease was eliminated in the year 2000. So far, a total of 387 cases have been confirmed this year in 15 states. Typical measles symptoms include high fever, rash, stuffy nose, and reddened eyes. But severe cases can lead to death. The CDC says one dose of the measles vaccine is about 93% effective at preventing measles if you come in contact with the virus. 2 doses are about 97% effective.
Right now, a lack of teacher retention is contributing to Arizona being ranked number 47 in public school systems. But one Valley school that was struggling got help from an unlikely source.
Cronkite News reporter Claire Kelly met with a teacher who left the profession but ended up coming back.
I could be in D.C., I could be in Hawaii. So now I'm giving up my time, but I know there's a need for it, okay?
Helen Clark retired in 2005, but returned to Cuban Elementary this year to teach again.
Teacher retention continues to be a huge issue across the state. We know in Arizona, in just the first month of this school year, we lost over 600 teachers just in the first month.
Clark was substituting at Cuban Elementary after her retirement when she realized how much the students needed her full time.
I only came for a couple of days, and the kids asked me after 2 days in the classroom, would I be their teacher? And I'm like, no, I'm retired, I'm having a good time. They're like, please, please, we've had 4 teachers, and we like you, we like the way you teach us. And I'm like, oh Lord, no. I've done that, been there, I don't want to go back in. But the kids had such a need, they wanted to learn.
Clark isn't the only retired teacher to come back to Cuban Elementary to take over empty classrooms.
We have the highest teacher turnover in the entire country. We have almost 100,000 students across Arizona who do not have a certified teacher at the front of their classroom. They have a substitute or they have someone who's learning, but they don't have a trained teacher at the front of the classroom.
Not only does Arizona need more teachers, but the state needs teachers who inspire students, like Clark.
They'll think they can't do it, but I was like, hey, it's a whole new world out there.
Cuban Elementary is a Title I school near 35th Avenue in Buckeye.
One of Hoffman's goals is to help the school acquire books for its new library. If you want reservations to hike in one of Arizona's most sought-after hiking spots, you'll have to wait a month longer than usual. Reservations to access Fossil Creek are required from April 1st to October 1st. But due to administration delays, the permit requirement will start a month later this year, on May 1st.
That means you can start making reservations today by going to recreation.gov. They cost $6 for a single day pass. It was reduced from the $10 per reservation last year.
Up next on Cronkite News, hunters now allowed to go off-roading further to find their big game.
But not everyone is thrilled about the decision. We'll tell you why after the break.
All sunshine right now, 81 degrees in Phoenix with wind very calm, so a very nice start to your week. We're not going to be in the 80s here for long. The 90s are coming. Make sure to stay around for that 7-day forecast.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Arizona Native American tribes on the hunt for animal hides, antlers, and other parts for cultural and religious use now have a unique new resource. The state's Wildlife Agency, a recently launched program, now allows tribes to make requests for animals that have died from poaching, natural causes, or after being hit by a car. So far, the program's biggest customers are the Navajo Nation, which has collected bear and mule deer carcasses, and the Hopi tribe, which has requested turtle shells and turkey feathers.
The Kaibab National Forest in northern Arizona brings in hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. They come to fish, hike, bike, and many come to hunt. And even though hunting season is a ways off, as Cronkite News reporter Jody Guerrero explains, people will have an easier time retrieving their big game this year.
Hunting season for big game doesn't start until the fall. But when it does, hunters in the Kaibab National Forest will be able to go up to a mile off-road to pick up illegally killed elk, bison, or mule deer. This comes after a federal court ruled earlier this year in favor of the Forest Service's plan to do this.
The court ruling will make it clear that that is a acceptable practice that should continue on all the forests.
Arizona Game and Fish Commissioner Kurt Davis says the ruling does create a challenge.
The difficulty with our current system is each forest does their own rules, and those rules often vary from one forest to another, including for like camping. Some forests 30 feet off the road, some forests 300 feet off the road.
The court ruling states hunters must use the most direct and least ground-disturbing route, only once in and once out. And that's what the Sierra Club and other environmental groups took issue with. Sandy Barr leads the Sierra Club's Grand Canyon chapter. She says the decision opens the door for people to abuse the land.
And so they drive out to get the elk, but then another person comes along and they see the tracks, and especially if it's muddy or something. So you've got the vegetation, and then pretty soon another person, and then you have a road. And then, more habitat fragmentation.
Barr says for these rules to actually be followed, there must be someone to enforce them at all times. The case goes back to 2005. That's when the Forest Service created rules for road use in parts of the Kaibab National Forest. The new rules actually reduce the miles of road that are open to off-roading and limit it for hunters. In Phoenix, Jody Guerrero, Cronkite News.
The U.S. Forest Service said in an email they won't comment on court opinions or proceedings.
Forecasters are anticipating higher wildfire activity for parts of Arizona. Today, the State Department of Forestry and Fire Management briefed Governor Doug Ducey on their fire season predictions. They say although we got some much-needed moisture this winter, more vegetation grew. And with the weather warming up, it will likely dry out, creating a higher chance for wildfires to spark. However, despite the state's dry conditions last year, the fire numbers dropped dramatically from the previous year. In 2017, wildfires charred 420,000 acres across our state.
Ashley, I know you said earlier it was 81 degrees. It's been absolutely beautiful outside.
It really has.
Couldn't ask for any better weather. But I heard you said something about 90 degrees. Please tell me that was an April Fool's joke.
No, it's not. The 90-degree temperatures are coming. We're going to be in those 80s for most of the week, but just take a look at how we're going to top off Monday night to make you feel a little bit better. We're going to remain in those lower 80s in the 70s for the rest of your Monday. We're going to start off your Tuesday at 65 degrees. It's not going to be as sunny as it was when you woke up this morning. There are going to be some clouds, but that sunshine is coming back at your lunch hour with that 80-degree temperature. By 4 o'clock, it's going to be 86 degrees. Across the valley, you see nothing but 80-degree temperatures. 88 degrees for that high over in Phoenix. Most of the lower part of the state is in those 80, 70-degree region, but even the northern part of the state is starting to warm up. They're starting to catch up to us a little bit. You see over in Sedona, it's going to be 70 degrees for that high tomorrow, and in Kingman, 75 degrees. So if you want to take a trip to Sedona and plan a hike, it's starting to warm up a lot out there. It's going to be beautiful, especially for the rest of the week. And as for here, Wednesday is going to be plenty of sunshine with 80 degrees for that high. Thursday, those clouds are coming back. They're going to come in throughout your weekend with 82 degrees on Friday. Saturday, 85 for that high. But Sunday, our first 90-degree day is expected. That high is going to be at 90 degrees with that low at 64 degrees. Pool party season is underway, so get those bathing suits out and get a dip in the pool. From the Cronkite News Center, I am Ashley Carter.
McDonald's unveils a new burger catered to pickle lovers.
That's right. When we come back, find out why some fast food eaters are upset about the Golden Arches so-called McPickle.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
How much do you like pickles? Or better yet, how much do you McLove pickles?
Is it so much that you'd order and eat a McPickle?
Well, check this out. McDonald's posted a photo of a burger featuring cheese, ketchup, and a mountain of pickles between a sesame bun.
Turns out it's all an April Fool's joke, but some pickle lovers were truly disappointed. Then to add to the joke, McDonald's commented on their post saying, "What's, quote, available until yesterday."
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS.
Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, a closer look at the economic benefits of renewable energy facilities and how Arizonans are making an impact through giving. That's on the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, our Fleeing Home series continues with the fate of those deported facing gang violence back in Honduras. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.